Welcome back, fight fans, to episode number 280 of the Neutral Corner Boxing Podcast. I am your host, Michael Montero, for The Ring Magazine, ringtv.com, and of course, the Ring Digital YouTube channel, where you are checking me out live right now. As always, I remind you guys, make sure that you are subscribed and you click that notification bell so that you never miss a live video of TNC. That way you can get in on the chat and you can get in on the phones. You never miss us. But if you can't join us Mondays, 5 p.m. Eastern time, you guys know the audio pod comes out the next day, every Tuesday, on my personal platforms, Montero on Boxing. All you got to do is search for Montero on Boxing, the Neutral Corner. Boom, you're going to find me on podcast platforms all around the world. There was another one that we just joined last week. I can't even remember the name of it. I get like emails from these different platforms saying, hey, you've been added to this platform, you've been added to that platform. Okay, cool. I don't know. There's a million of them. So wherever you listen to podcasts, you guys can find me, okay? And by any chance, if you find one out there that I'm not on, just let me know and we'll take care of that. But as far as I know, I'm on all 50 billion of them. TNC 280 for the week of September 04. We are supposed to be joined by American heavyweight contender Michael the Bounty Hunter today. So hopefully he'll be on the chat in the next few minutes and I can bring him in and we can chat with him about a bunch of different things. Of course, he had a fight earlier this month and there was a World Star Hip Hop did a little like 20-minute documentary just kind of following him around in New York during that during fight week, mostly for that fight that he had on Triller up there at MSG in New York. So that was pretty cool. We'll talk about that and what he wants to do. He should have a fight coming up possibly in October, but definitely in the fourth quarter of the year, he's going to fight again, which is good because after the pandemic, you know, he had some momentum going into 2020, and then the pandemic hit and it seems like it all kind of stalled. So if he could get on, we will talk to him. If not, we'll get him on later in the month, okay? So for right now, let's just jump right into news and notes. And, you know, there's not a whole hell of a lot to talk about right now, but we're going to do it, man. We do shows regardless, rain, snow, or shine. By the way, it is thunderstorming like crazy outside. Another one of these, I was going to say tropical storm, but I think this one's actually a hurricane hit this weekend. So it's raining like crazy outside. If the audio is a little fuzzy, if things go in and out, I promise you guys, it's not me bailing on you. It's just the wacky weather down here in Atlanta. All right. So as far as news and notes go, there's not a whole hell of a lot to talk about at the moment, but I want to let you guys know, of course, this Monday coming up here in the United States is the Labor Day holiday. And I'm not going to do TNC next Monday, September 6th. I'm also not going to do a Friday wrap-up show, a live one this Friday. However, I do have something pre-recorded that I'm going to share with you guys Friday. So I'll premiere that Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. So you guys will have something to check out that I think you'll enjoy, something a little different this Friday on my personal channel, Montero on Boxing. So it won't be the Friday wrap-up, won't be a live video with your phone calls and everything like that. But it'll be something pre-recorded that you guys, I think, will enjoy, something different, something motivational, educational, and insightful more than anything. So check that out this Friday on my channel. And then Monday, September 6th, I'm going to be taking off the holiday, Labor Day holiday. I'm going to be chilling with my family. So going to be going to the beach and enjoying some time with some family. Me and my wife are going to be going out to the ocean and meeting up with family members and just relaxing for a few days. They're going to be drinking and eating and being merry. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to be good. I'm still going to be doing my road work out there, but trying to enjoy myself a little bit as well. So just want to let you guys know that, okay? So this Friday, we got something for you on my channel, but Monday, nothing, no TNC. However, next Friday, we're going to be back with the Friday wrap-up on my personal channel, all right? And then we're back to the regular schedule. Wanted to let you guys know that. Also, let me share my screen here. I want you guys' input on this. For those of you who are on Twitter, and I shared the link in the chat to this, but if you follow me on Twitter, just go to my Twitter profile and check out this poll that I just posted this like a couple hours ago. Okay. So I'm just asking you guys, did you buy the Paul Woodley pay-per-view? Or if you watched it, did you buy it or did you stream it? And when I say stream it, I don't mean you paid for the pay-per-view stream. I mean, did you illegally stream it for free? Okay. I don't want to put the word illegal in the tweet because the Twitter people will, they'll do what they do and shadow ban me or whatever. So I kept it, PC, but you guys just read between the lines what I'm saying here. So, or did you completely ignore it, which is what I did. So those are the three options. All right. So we'll vote in this poll because only about 400 of you have voted so far because I just posted this, but I want to get a good sample size. I want to see if I can get like 1,000 people to vote in this. So there's three options. You paid for it, your team stream, or you didn't watch. Okay. Go over to my Twitter profile and check that out and make sure that you vote on that because I want to get your input on this. I'm genuinely curious because we'll talk about that pay-per-view obviously later in the show, but part of me thinks that thing did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Wouldn't surprise me, which would be nuts because Pacquiao's pay-per-view didn't break 300,000, right? So if Paul and Woodley broke over 1 million buys, and I'm looking here so far on my Twitter poll, okay? I'm looking at what 64% of you so far are saying you didn't even watch. Now, only 400 have voted, but still. 27% of you say your team streamed. Less than 10% of you on my poll so far say that you actually paid for this. But I'm telling you, it's probably going to do over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But so far, Jake Paul has done numbers. And there was an element to this promotion that was really, really they were promoting to the lowest common denominator to a certain extent, which is what the last show did. But this kind of went into a different angle, which I'll get into later. It's an angle that I hate and can't stand, but it draws views, man. So, vote on that poll. Let me know what you guys have to say about that, okay? I'm very, very curious. I want to get an idea of the marketplace. And my gut feel here and my guess is that most of you who follow me and listen to the show, watch the show, every Monday you're here chilling with me watching TNC. I think most of you guys out there probably didn't pay for this, right? So I think a lot of diehard boxing fans didn't pay for this, yet it's still going to do over 1 million buys. So what if that does happen, what does that mean? That means Jake Paul is promoting himself to a different group of fans that are not the diehard fans, and the fans that he's marketing to are not buying the diehard fight fan pay-per-views. They're not buying the Tank Davis's fights. They're not buying any of the PBC pay-per-views. Really, they're the only American promoter right now doing pay-per-views regularly. So let's just call it what it is. They're not buying those, right? Which will kind of give a little insight into how and why Showtime bought into this thing, because a lot has been made about that. So, all right, you know what? We're going to get into we're going to get right into the review here in a second. I just want to check out some of you guys' comments. We got a bunch of you guys here in the chat. Yeah, so Sports Talk with Troy says the overall card was pretty solid. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Chris Bergen agrees. Yeah, the undercard was decent. Twal says, watched it the next day, not paying to watch a YouTuber I barely know versus a 0-0 boxer, all-time great MMA fighter, old. Isan just says, Mike. What's up, Isan? Torrid says, watch the Jake Paul fiasco, and the only cards that moved the needle, or the only fights that only moved the needle for me was Dubois and Serrano. Everything else was trash. Yeah, I hear you. Although the Love Baranchek fight was interesting, in my opinion. Carlos Cabrera says Dubois did what he was supposed to do. Yeah, I agree. Chad Fletcher, come to Captiva Island Labor Day weekend, Mikey. I don't know where that is. Is that in Georgia? We're going to Hilton Head. We're going to Hilton Head. And so that's South Carolina, but that's like kind of, I think that's right on the border. I think that's right on the Georgia, South Carolina border, but it's supposed to be super freaking nice. Oh, Canada Chris won some money. He says, Jake Paul decision paid me $1,100. Sweet. Yeah, man, I told everyone that was the bet. Not that I got everything right this weekend. A lot of people thought Baranchek was going to kill Montana Love, by the way. And I told them, man, we don't know what's left with Baranchek. And we saw that dude is shop worn. Hate to say it, but he did not look good. And so those who put money on Montana Love made some cash. Jake Paul decision. I was surprised that the odds were not wider. It really, really was. Jesus, 1 foot out the door, says Logan and Jake Paul fan base, LGBT community. I'm not even touching that, bro. Not even touching that. Charlie Burley says, I never watched that kind of stuff. I've never seen him fight apart from clips. I've never watched Floyd fight McGregor, Paul, or that Japanese kid, and never seen Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. You know what, Charlie? Same for me for all of that. So we are in agreement, my friend. All right, let's get right into this review. All right, I guess Michael can't join. I'll touch base with Michael Hunter's team. I wasn't 100% sure he'd be on today, but we'll get him later. I'm saying later in the month. We'll get him later in September, okay? Because I want to talk to Michael about a few different things. I think his next fight is going to be a lot better than his last two as far as the level of opponent. Okay, only one fight card of note last weekend, right? And it was a Sunday card, August 29th at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland, Ohio. Showtime pay-per-view. Let's talk about the undercard real quick. Tommy Fury, unanimous decision over Anthony Taylor. No surprises there. Daniel Dubois, this was a bit of a surprise to me. Not that I'm shocked or anything, but TKO won over Giuseppe Angelo Cusimano. And that was a hell of a performance by Dubois. And it just showed levels. It just showed levels that, look, man, Dubois is not someone to fuck with. A lot of people, jumped all over him because of that loss to Joyce. Number one, I think Joyce is a bona fide, legitimate top 10 heavyweight. He might be a top 5 heavyweight. Don't shoot the messenger, but he really might. Seriously. I'm telling you guys, he's very slow, but there's something there. I'm telling you right now. Anyway, for Dubois to take on that level of a fight when he did, I think it's going to serve as a learning lesson to him. And don't sleep on Daniel Dubois. I think he's still got something to him. But Charles Conwell picked up a TKO 3 win over a Mexican fighter, Juan Carlos Rubio. I like Charles Conwell and I like Tim Tszyu at 154. I don't even want to call them prospects. I think they're ready to contend right now. But those guys, the future of that division looks bright. And you're getting fighters from different parts of the world now. They're starting to infiltrate that division and break up the monopoly that we've had there for a while. The PBC stranglehold there, and it's going to make for some interesting title fights in the coming years. Montana Love scored a 7-round stoppage, a retirement stoppage over Ivan Baranchek. And speaking of retirement, Baranchek might want to consider it. I don't mean to be harsh, man, but this was a one-sided fight, guys. And I'm telling you, I don't know what the betting odds were. Some of you bettors out there, let me know. But I feel like a lot of people were putting money on Baranchek and thinking that Montana Love was just going to get smoked because he hadn't fought anybody. And I tried telling you guys last week, and I said it on Twitter over and over again, we don't know what to expect from Baranchek, man. He had that brutal fight late last year with Zepeda, took a ton of punishment, showed an insane heart. He was in great shape for that fight. But finally, when that sort of fight, it really takes so much out of you, man. It's almost better to get blasted out in one round. I know it doesn't look good, but getting blasted out in one round prolongs your career more so than getting beat up over 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds. And that's what happened with Baranchek. I can't remember how many times he was down, but he was down multiple times against Zepeda. And Zepeda was dropped too, but Zepeda looked more solid throughout, I felt. And Baranchek just got busted up so bad. And then finally the brutal knockout after all the punishment he took. And then he was out of the ring and he went right from that to an undefeated prospect with a lot of talent. Unproven, untested, yes, but a lot of talent. You can't deny Montana Love has skills. Again, I saw him up close here in Atlanta earlier this year. And I said, okay, there's something to that kid. So when Baranchek took that fight, no tune-up, you know what I'm saying? Mikey Garcia and all these guys, American fighters, always talking about tune-ups. These guys from overseas, especially the Eastern European guys, man, they just throw them in. These guys don't get tune-ups. They just throw them into the deep waters, right? And with Baranchek, he went right back in there and just didn't look good in this fight, man. The scores, so he got dropped, I think, in the, seventh round, and then made it to his corner, but his corner stopped the fight after that, didn't come out for the eighth. Here's the thing, guys. The scores, now maybe these were a bit too wide, but they pretty much reflected what the fight was. The scores were 70-62 and 69-63 twice at the time of the stoppage, right? So Love was way ahead. Now, maybe you could give another round or two to Baranchek, maybe. But look, Love is from Ohio. Fight card was in Ohio. You knew who was going to win on the cards anyway. But, man, that was a really one-sided fight. And what happened, if you looked at the punch output from Baranchek, it was down from his recent fights overall. Just punches thrown per round was down by like 20 or 30 punches a round. But by the time they got to the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh round, it had dropped even from where it was in the early rounds. So when you see a guy's punch output drop dramatically in one fight after a beatdown like he took against Zepeda in a bad knockout, and then his output drop in one fight from the early rounds into the middle rounds going into the late rounds, you could just see, man, that the wear and tear is there. And for Baranchek and his team, they need to have a really tough discussion because he has now lost 3 of 4. And he took some punishment in this fight as well. So in the co-main, Amanda Serrano wins a unanimous decision over Mexican fighter Yamelith Mercado, defends her WBC and WBO featherweight titles. She's a unified title holder. Scores were pretty wide, which they should have been. This is a one-sided fight. And this brings up the question. And I bring this up because we got some ladies fighting this weekend, right? The woman who I believe is the pound for pound #1 female fighter in the world, Katie Taylor, is fighting this weekend. But where is Amanda Serrano in this discussion? Because when you look at experience, just fight experience, not only boxing, she's involved in other martial arts. Not just boxing, but she's done others and succeeded there too. Where do you rate Amanda Serrano pound for pound with the lady fighters, man? There's a lot of people out there, a growing group of fans that say she's #1 pound for pound. Now, I don't believe that. And her team found a way to not do the fight with Katie Taylor. What was it, last year or was it 2019? I can't even remember. But there was a possibility. There was talks, offers for her to fight Katie Taylor. It fell through, and it really, really appeared that was more on Serrano's side. They didn't like elements of the deal. That's fine, but they haven't even revisited it. So I can't put her #1 pound for pound, but she's up there. And I'm curious what you guys have to say about that. So give me your feedback on that. All right, let's talk about main event. Jake Paul, split decision, and it should have been unanimous. The split decision was bullshit. I can't believe I'm defending Jake Paul. He improves to 4-0, but a split decision over Tyron Woodley, all 39 years old of them, at 190 pounds. This was a 190-pound fight. So this was old school cruiserweight fight because that used to be the cruiserweight limit. Then they moved it up to 200. Scores were 77, 75, 78, 74. Those were both good scores. And then one judge had it 77, 75 for Woodley. That was a terrible score. Not that this was a great fight or anything like that, but I'm just saying, I mean, clearly Paul did win. Although he was, there was a knockdown that was probably missed because he got clipped, fell back into the ropes. And, when that happens, unless their feet got tangled up, that should be accounted as a knockdown. But even with the knockdown, Paul won this fight. Anyway, look, Paul is 4-0. All 4 of his opponents were making their pro boxing debut. And what they've done very, very intelligently, I think the first fight he had was against another YouTube guy. So that pandered to the YouTube audience. Then he fought a former NBA player, right? So you're bringing in that audience. Then he just fought a former MMA guy, Ben Askren, here in Atlanta. I was at that fight for Ring Magazine. I covered that fight for Ring. And that was a fucking circus, man. And then, and now he just fought another former MMA guy. So they're going for different fan bases here. different demographic fan bases, and then fan bases from different sports and different platforms. And the common denominator here is that all 4 of his opponents were making their pro debut. Now, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of people out there saying, well, look at Deontay Wilder's first 20 some odd fights. Look at Canelo Alvarez, his first 20 some odd fights. These guys, a lot of their opponents were making their pro debut and all that good stuff. And there's truth in that. There really is truth in that. But those guys weren't making the amount of money Jake Paul is making. So it really goes to show you, man, this isn't an entertainment business. It's sports entertainment. And it's not always about the level of opposition. Sometimes it's about the level of marketing and who you bring, as far as your fan base, the economic muscle that you bring. So this isn't the first time something like this has happened in boxing. But this is the first time it's looked this way, because things change and media changes. And now we're living in the social media age, the cord cutting age, the streaming age. And if you would have asked somebody 20 years ago, what's a social media star? They wouldn't know, right? Or even 10 years ago, the term social media star, people would kind of be like, what the hell is that? But now it's a real thing. And the corporate media has bought into social media platforms. Look at what happened with YouTube. YouTube used to be this place where independent content creators came and posted things, and people laughed at it. But there was independent media that started up on YouTube, including boxing media, solely YouTube-based boxing media. Look at what Marcos Viegas did with Fight Hub. There's a prime example. People used to laugh at that dude and not consider him real media. Well, look at them now. Fight Hub is considered a real media outlet. Now, they only interview fighters. That's really the only thing they really do. So it's not a full-fledged media outlet where they're doing like what Ring does or something, but it's a media outlet. So, I say that because the corporate media looked at what happened with YouTube, or there are YouTube, Joe Rogan. There's another example. Joe Rogan's numbers on his podcast destroy all the cable news outlets and all that kind of stuff. And they would look at that and say, holy shit, these guys are whooping our ass. So then what happened? They bought into the corporate media bought into the social media platforms and took everything over. So now in your algorithms, if you guys type in boxing or whatever, all the corporate media is going to pop up. Boom, 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 before the independent guys pop up, because the corporations are paying for all that, right? And that's because they were getting their ass beat by independent content creators. Where am I going with all this? The people in charge of the situation, the elites that run the media, the axis of media and big tech and all that, right? Hollywood and the sports media industry is tied into all that. They see where the money is going. They see where the demographic trends are going. And that's why you see Jake Paul fighting on Showtime. Look, man, Gervonta Davis had a pay-per-view this year that did maybe 200,000 pay-per-view buys. Manny Pacquiao, one of the most famous active boxers on the planet, just had a pay-per-view, and it didn't break 300,000 pay-per-view buys. So when you have people like that, boxing stars that can't even break 500,000, I mean, look, man, Manny Pacquiao and Gervonta Davis's last pay-per-views combined didn't do 500,000 buys. Isn't that crazy? And this fucking YouTube kid is going to do over 1 million for this fight with Woodley. So because that's going on, you're going to see more of this. I don't shoot the messenger, guys, but there's a lot of you out there who can't stand it. I understand. This Jake Paul thing is going to go as long as it can until the kid fights a boxer and loses. When he fights a actual boxer, who's rated, not even a top 10 guy, please. I'm just saying someone who's rated at all, he's going to lose. Now, at that point, it'll be interesting to see if his fan base is going to continue to buy in. The teeny boppers and the kids that are buying this shit, the suburban kids that would never be caught in a boxing gym to save their fucking lives, are they going to keep buying when the kid loses? Is Jake Paul going to keep that same hunger and keep boxing when he loses? That is what I'm kind of interested to see. Or is he going to say, okay, I tried this. We did this little thing for a few years. Now it's on to the next. And he goes and does his next little thing. I'll say this about Jake Paul, man. He knows how to market himself, and he's becoming the new Floyd Mayweather in reverse. I'm going to explain what I mean by that in just a second. Let me get to this super chat. Feeling Dangerous 113 with the super chat. Thank you so much, man. He says, it was really good. It was a really good night for Cleveland fighters, Love and Conwell. Broadcast wasn't as much fun as a Triller one. They need to loosen up for these Paul fights. Yeah, that's another angle, man, that I wanted to talk about because, again, I was at the Triller show in Atlanta, and it was this smorgasbord of entertainment. And a lot of it was kind of appealing to the lowest common denominator, something for everyone, but extremely lowbrow. And I'm going to sound like an elitist prick here, and I'm really not trying to be. But it was part strip club, part smoke session, part frat boy, chugging beers night, part fighting, just a little bit of everything. Part, 50-year-old over the hill rappers, still trying to dress and talk like they're 21. It was this whole mixture of stuff going on, right? And all of it was so dumbed down. I'm not trying to say this to be a dick. It's just the truth of what they're going for here with that type of show, that everyone can buy in and just realize this is a complete fucking freak show. This is a complete circus. Take my $80. I'm going to have a few cocktails, or if you're into it, I'm going to smoke a joint, drop some mushrooms, whatever the fuck it is you guys are into out there. Have fun, just be responsible. But whatever it is you're into, you're going to do that with your boys, and you're just going to laugh at the fucking freak show you're watching and enjoy it and spend your $80. And that really worked, especially in the lockdown world of COVID, where concerts were not happening and live events in many parts of the country and many parts of the world were not happening. So I thought Triller really tapped into something. I didn't think it was anything really sustainable long-term or anything that was going to build diehard boxing fans that are going to be watching boxing with their grandkids decades from now. That's not what I saw. I saw something that can make some quick money. And again, it was appealing to drunken frat boys. That's what that shit was appealing to. Now on Showtime, Al Bernstein can't smoke a joint with Snoop Dogg during a Showtime championship boxing broadcast. And I don't even know if Al was on the show last night. You guys will have to tell me. But, an esteemed colleague of boxing media getting high and getting drunk with Snoop, that wouldn't fly on old school HBO or even Showtime or even Fox or ESPN. It just wouldn't fly. And we'll take this outside of boxing and go to the NFL and other sports. It wouldn't fly in those sports. Joe Namath, Hall of Fame quarterback, was drunk as fuck a few years back. I think it was on a Monday Night Football broadcast. And it was, he got publicly shamed for that. He had to apologize. There was this whole ordeal from it, right? What Al Bernstein and the guys were doing on Triller, hey, it's on fucking Triller. So who cares? Let it rip, right? It's going to be different on Showtime. So it's almost like they're trying to legitimize Jake Paul in a sense. And I don't know if that's going to work as much as the Triller angle would. But here's the thing, man. If the fans are gullible enough to believe that what they're getting is real boxing and what they're getting is like this kid who's, learning the ropes and he's building himself up and he's going to be a champion in a few years. Like if they're really believing that, then maybe they'll stay along for the ride, even if it is on Showtime and Snoop isn't in there saying, for shizzle, and Oscar De La Hoya isn't drunk off his ass calling Steve Cunningham the USSR repeatedly or USSA. He said that a couple times too. Oh my God. It was such a shit show, guys. But it was hilarious. I mean, I think I told you guys this, but from where I was at in the media section, I could hear Oscar yelling down by the ring up in the media section. That's how loud he was. That's how drunk he was. But you're not going to get that on Showtime. But I think Jake's fans are going to be interested. Okay. I wanted to delve into something here that's going to be a little uncomfortable for some of you. So I want to preface and I want to put the trigger warning out there. Make sure that, those of you with sensitive ears aren't going to get too worked up. But there was an angle to this promotion And I don't think Tyron Woodley meant to do this. I think it just organically happened. But I saw something happen over the weekend. And if they did mean to do this, it was sneaky genius. Okay. Although I really don't like it. But there was, I don't know if it was one of the preview shows, the Fight Week show that they had. There was some dude, some MMA reporter dude. He's got a shaved head. I don't know who he is. It's a tiny little dude with a shaved head. You guys will probably know his name. He was interviewing Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. They were doing like a face-to-face across a table. And Tyron Woodley just blasted the fuck out of Jake Paul, basically saying, you're a poser. You know, you put on this hood front and you wear hip-hop gear and you do rap songs. I actually grew up around that thing. I'm the real deal. You're a fake suburbanite piece of shit. And that angle bled over onto Twitter, which is Wokeville, you know, that's the woke nest of big tech, right? But it also bled onto Instagram, YouTube, all of it. There were blurbs about this on blogs and stuff all over the place on the internet. And it took a racial angle. It took a political angle. It took a racial angle. And I saw members of the boxing media, including people I really like and I look up to, and I value their work and their opinion, like pandering to that and diving into it. I saw tweets. One member of the boxing, well, he's more of a wrestling media guy. He's on the fringes of boxing media, but he's a guy that's attacked me on Twitter multiple times. And I've tried to reach out to him privately and said, hey man, I'd love to talk to you and have a meeting of the minds, because you got the wrong idea about me. And he constantly tweets really, really radical content, really, really divisive, radical content. But he called Jake Paul a colonizer. So, and to me, I'm interpreting that as a racist term at that point, okay? Because the way that the context he used it, and referring to an entire group of people as colonizers, and Jake Paul is the representative of them, I thought that was really fucked up. Nobody in fight sports media held that individual accountable for that. And that wasn't a tweet from 5 years ago, purposely taken out of context by people with agendas to take that person down. That was something that was tweeted this week. And there were members of the boxing media retweeting and quoting that person, doubling down, saying, fuck yeah, I hope that guy gets his shit stomped. And I'm like, damn, dude, this took a really dark turn. This took a really, really dark turn. And again, I don't think Tyron Woodley meant to do that. He was just trying to get in this kid's head. And then Jake Paul said some really stupid fucking shit. And that's just what he does. Okay, that's his shtick. But he said something, and I don't know where he said it or when he said it or even how he said it, but I'm paraphrasing. He said that he grew up like in the hood, or he grew up, maybe not the hood, but he grew up working class, lower class. And I tweeted out because I saw a clip of his childhood home, and it's a fucking palace, right? It's the childhood home that kids like me, I was born in a trailer park, looked at and thought, oh, you know, on the other side of town, like, oh, those people don't even want us over there. They look at us as the help. That's the kind of neighborhood this kid grew up in. He didn't grow up rough, right? So the kid kind of asked for some of the shit he's getting. I'm not trying to defend Jake Paul here, but terms like culture vulture, colonizer, and all this other stuff, that was really, really nasty. And to see members of the fight media and boxing media jumping on that and running with that, Jake Paul is an easy target. Again, I'm not trying to defend the kid, but he's an easy target to go after. These same people that were just ripping this fucking kid to shreds have just completely looked the other way when boxers have beat women, said horrible, racist, misogynist, homophobic things repeatedly, defended women beaters, done jail time for things like this, been arrested for different things. And then you see these boxers making millions of dollars and getting opportunity after opportunity. And it's kind of just okay. And everyone looks the other way, but this kid's getting shredded. I thought that was an ugly turn that this promotion took. And unfortunately, it probably made the pay-per-view sell more because it's pandering to the lowest common denominator. It's appealing to lowbrow. Look, the lowest common denominators in society are race, sex, gender, sexual preference, like those sorts of things. Those are the least interesting things and the least important things about who you are as a person, right? But they're the things that tug at the heartstrings of the ignorant and insecure. And those are the people that are going to put down their money for something when you tug at those heartstrings. So this promotion took that ugly turn. And it reminded me of things I saw during the first Kovalev Ward promotion that concerned me. Things I saw with the Fury Wilder promotion and the aftermath of their rematch, specifically the aftermath of the rematch, and other promotions recently. And you see this sort of promotional pandering to the lowest common denominator in boxing. You see it in all sports, but in boxing, you see it more with certain platforms than others. Okay, you really, really do. And those are just ugly places that I would prefer we don't go to. And I think we go to those places in the boxing industry when we don't have a really good product to sell. And that's what this was. So I hope in the future that they don't continue going down that road. And because they don't need to. The Jake Paul show, again, it's a fucking circus. I don't watch his fights. I'm not interested in it. Do I think Jake Paul is going to be boxing 5 years from now? Absolutely not. I really, really don't. But it ain't going away right now. It's going to be around for a few years. And they have enough of a thing going that they don't need to go down that ugly road, man. They just don't. So I hope that doesn't continue, And why I say Floyd Mayweather in reverse is because of this, okay? And then I'll leave this alone, all right? Unless you guys want to talk about it more, and I'm sorry for those of you with sensitive ears. I know. You're going to be okay, all right? Just relax. Floyd, in the twilight of his career, when he wasn't going to be able to knock guys out and stuff, he used his personality to market himself, right? Floyd pandered to the lowest common denominator in a lot of ways, and he was a genius with it, okay? And all of us in the boxing industry could see it. We knew what he was doing, and you either talked about it realistically or you just kind of went along with the ride to I guess, keep the access. You kind of had to make a choice, one or the other, right? So you kind of played the game or you just talked about what was really happening. But what ended up happening when Floyd was fighting, specifically under that Showtime contract, that 6 fights, he fought every year, Cinco de Mayo, Mexican Independence Day. Floyd Mayweather is American. He's not Mexican, right? But he would always make sure he was fighting a Mexican-American, or a Latin American fighter who trained with Mexican-American trainers, particularly in Southern California, if you could get it, like a Marcos Maidana. That was by design. And Floyd marketed himself in a way to where it was a manipulation largely of casual sports fans and Mexican-American fight fans. People bought Floyd's fights hoping to see him lose, hoping to see him get his comeuppance, right? And on those, even going back to his HBO days, but especially with the Showtime stuff, all those preview shows, I can't remember what the hell they're called. HBO's was 24/7. I can't remember what Showtime calls theirs, but they would, with really crafty editing and narration, make it look like Robert Guerrero had a chance against Floyd, or Victor Ortiz or Marcos Maidana had a chance, or that Floyd Pacquiao was this fight happening at the perfect time, the crescendo of their careers, right? And they both still had plenty left in the tank, and there's this grudge match, and they were both going to go in there and brawl. You're going to get Hagler Hearns. That's the way they marketed these things, right? And Floyd wore the black hat, and his opponents wore the white hat. For those of you who don't understand that term, what that means is there's a good guy and a bad guy, okay? And Floyd played the bad guy, and a lot of people bought his fights hoping to see him lose. And it worked for him. He became a wealthy man. Floyd isn't rich. Floyd's above rich. Floyd's wealthy, okay? So Floyd's not in the top 1%. He's in the top 1% of the top 1%. That's how wealthy Floyd is. He milked that to the stage where he was wealthy. And he handled his business in the ring. He had to do that too. But African-American fans, many of them bought Floyd's fights to support Floyd. Other fans of other demos, and again, there's crossover and bleed over with all this, okay, guys? But I'm just saying the strategy with Floyd, and he'll tell you this. If you get him in the room and talk to him, he'll tell you this, and his team will tell you this. Everyone else was buying to see Floyd lose. Okay. With Jake Paul, it's kind of the opposite. And this Tyron Woodley thing even, I think, exaggerated it. A lot of people now, from outside of Jake's TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube fan bubble, okay, which is racially and ethnically diverse, mind you, but it's young people, okay? It's young people who don't know shit about boxing. Outside of that bubble, there are all these other demographic groups. And those people are buying, hoping to see Jake Paul lose. If they can tap into all these other demographic groups and get them buying the pay-per-views as well, hoping to see Jake lose, meanwhile, all his TikTok teeny boppers are buying, supporting him, they got something. They got, dare I say, the biggest star in the sport of boxing commercially, at least in America, because he is right now. And it's all marketing. It's all fluff. They are basically taking what Floyd Mayweather did, flipping it, reversing it, and doing it with Jake Paul, who's a novice as a boxer. It's crazy, dude, but it's working. So I'm curious what you guys think about that. I know it's going to trigger some of you, and I apologize in advance. I know sensitive ears don't want to hear such things. You just want to put your fingers in your ears and go, la, 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 just pretend none of this matters. But okay, Boxing and Bulldogs says, Montero, I agree with that being the lowest common denominator, but you do manage to bring up race a lot. Number one, I completely disagree with you. I don't bring up race a lot. If I brought up race a lot, I'd bring it up on every single show. I don't. I bring it up when it's relevant. And there's a lot of bleed and crossover between race, politics, and sports. I'm not the one doing that. I'm not the one interjecting it. Okay. And I certainly don't interject it when it doesn't belong. That's what everyone else in the fucking media does these days. That's kind of what Tyron Woodley did during the fucking promotion of this fight. I didn't do that. I'm just opining on it, on what I saw, because it is relevant. This fight just occurred yesterday. It hasn't even been 24 hours. And there was a racial component to it, dude. I had to bring it up. You guys come here and watch my show because I'm one of the very, very few that's willing to talk about this shit honestly and give my opinion. Now, you don't have to agree 100%. You don't even have to agree 50%. But you have to at least admit, I'm on to something here. There's a shred, a kernel of truth here to what I'm saying. Even if we have completely different worldviews politically, for the record, classical liberal, I'm a moderate, okay? But even if we have whether you're all the way on the right or all the way on the left, okay, and we have completely different worldviews, you have to admit there's a kernel of truth to what I'm saying here, dude. And as a guy that works in the boxing industry to a certain degree, I'm not saying I'm a fucking A-lister, badass motherfucker, but I talk to those dudes. I know what's going on and I know how they market this stuff. Now, are all promoters marketing fights this way? Are all fighters marketing themselves this way? No, of course not, which is great. But there are some platforms, some promotions who really, really do believe in this stuff. And they proactively try to find angles like this to promote their shows. I'm telling you guys, just do the math. Just look at the way certain shows are promoted and look at the social media behind it and everything else. And you'll see patterns, dude. I'm not trying to bring this up where it don't fit. And also, I'm saying I don't like it. We don't need this shit in the sport. We have one of the most diverse, this is going to make some of you laugh, but it's true. We have one of the most diverse and inclusive sports in terms of different nationalities, different heritage, different religions in the world. We really, really do. Look at the pound for pound list right now. It looks like a fucking UN meeting. I like that. I think that's fucking cool. That's why when we're pandering to the lowest common denominator, it's annoying to me and I bring it up. I'm not trying to obsess over this shit, but there is an element here, guys. And Am I going to be talking about this a week or two from now? No, I'm talking about this because this fight just took place less than 24 hours ago. And I saw things on social media from my peers in the boxing media, by the way, including some of them that are friends of mine. I've broken bread. I've had beers with them. I've been at their fucking house. I've sat on their couch and pet their dog. Okay. And I saw people tweeting and saying things that were really tribalistic and just ugly, dude. And I'm like, man, I don't like where this is going. Because this is where a lot of Floyd stuff went to, and it wasn't good for the sport, man. It didn't build anything. It kind of just divided shit more. I just don't like that. Derek Williamson in the chat says, agree, Mike, promoting a fight with a divisive theme reeks of desperation. That's what I took from it. I took, hey, let's get some last minute heat here. Let's play the race factor, play that up, and there you go. All right, boxing and Bulldogs. I think we're meeting in the middle because your comment here says Floyd was the worst thing that happened to boxing in 50 years. Now, I'm not going to say that because Floyd did do some very innovative and creative things, and he brought boxing marketing into the 21st century in regards to the reality TV angle and the social media angle. So he did do some good innovative things for the sport, but the divisive, political, racialized stuff, yeah, not good, man. It kind of left American boxing in a bad place. Look at American boxing before Floyd was the top star. Okay, let's go back 20 years and look at it now. Are we more fragmented or less? Are things more divisive in the fight media and social media and among fight fans? Are they more divisive or less? So Floyd he's not to blame for all of that, of course. Not even most of it, but he is to blame for some of it. He truly is. Torian Fox says the only two promoters that could get away with that type of promoting is Don King and Floyd with no backlash. Hey, you said that, not me. You said that, not me, bro. Ceylon says the race factor is there whether or not you play it. Yes, Ceylon, I think that to a certain extent it's there, but let's be honest. I honestly believe if you guys watch my show and you listen to my show and what we try to do here, I truly believe most of you guys, 99% of you that watch this show, don't give a shit about race and all that stuff. You don't. You just want to see the best fight the best, and you're fans of fighters of all walks of life, just like I am. It's a small segment out there that really, really is obsessed with this stuff, but they're also the loudest segment of fans, and they talk the loudest on social media. They don't always put their money where their mouth is, but they do talk the loudest. So you're going to see a lot of this stuff, man. Nacho says, Mike, these two dudes were using any and everything to sell this WWE style fight. I agree with you. All right, 1 foot out the door. Hold on. This comment, I'm not even going to read your comment out loud, but if you post one more comment like that, you're banned from the fucking chat. Don't post shit like that. You know, I'm not going to read your comment, but don't post shit like that here. Derek Williams says the divisive stuff trends well on social, which is probably why we see it more often in recent times. Unfortunately, you are correct, sir. Unfortunately, you are correct. All right. I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to go to the phones here. We got a call. Let me change my banners. There we go. Let me pick up this call. And then we will go into the review. Preview. There's some stuff to preview for this weekend, okay? All right, 818, you were on the show. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Mike? How you doing, bro? Everything good?
Yeah, man. How you doing? Is this Alex?
Yeah, man. Ace from Ventura, buddy.
Oh, Ace from Ventura. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Hey, man. Good show, man. Good show. And, I just wanted to call in. Got a couple of things to say about, this weekend's event, man. But, with what you said with all the whole racing and all that, man, yeah, definitely 100% true, and unfortunately it happens. And especially in the social media world, Twitter world, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. I'm not too much of a social media guy, but, but I mean, and I'm pretty sure you get it a lot since you're kind of, you're part of the boxing world. So it must make you, that's probably why you're a little more passionate about it than more other people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I mean, you have the right to be, man. I mean, it's true, bro. It's definitely true. But with that being said, man, I want to talk a little bit about the Jake Paul and Woodley fight. First and foremost, I mean, I didn't watch it. I mean, they wouldn't buy that kind of stuff, but I do watch. I did watch the clips and some highlights of whatnot, because after all, it is boxing. And I'm a fan of the boxing sport itself. But you say you didn't watch it, right?
No. I just saw like highlights of it. I watched some of the undercard stuff, but that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I would have watched the undercard, but I just wouldn't have. I didn't pay for it. But man, it's kind of funny what you were saying with these social media or YouTube stars, because I was just talking to my girlfriend yesterday watching this show, and I come to find out that this girl that was it was a movie. This girl that was in this movie was only in this movie because she had a big following. I don't know who it is or what
Happens
what
a lot,
app
man.
or whatever, but right,
Yeah.
and I didn't know. I'm like I said, I'm not a big social guy or whatever you want to call it, but I didn't realize that happened so much. And nowadays, all you have to do is have a big following, and you can pretty much be put anywhere as long as they market you correctly and put you, in a good spot. And this is exactly what's happening with this kid Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't blame him. You really can't. The guy's doing what he's got to do. People are making money off of him. He's marketing stuff like you said, and he's just doing what he's got to do, man. And it's up to us to pretty much choose to go along with the ride or just ignore it. And like us, don't buy the pay-per-views, don't watch the fights, just take glimpses or watch the recap or whatever. But it's sad. It's come down to where you don't have to have no talent whatsoever in this world, and that's why people don't have a sense of work ethic anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you actually you see those things and you recognize those things. You know what I'm saying? Because I think it's important for people to know that that's what's happening, especially in our sport. Because right away there's a reason why boxing will never go away, and it's always going to go on. And it's because of these kind of things. Everybody wants a piece of that pie.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, secondly, bro. With that being said, I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a social media, but I do have a social media on Twitter just for boxing, but I'm not active. But what about now these MMA fans or MMA people, talking smack about boxing? Oh, it's not a real sport.
Yeah.
Any MMA fighter will beat any kind of fighter, including a boxer, blah, blah. This guy, I know he was old, blah, 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 but he couldn't even get out, couldn't even do nothing to a 24-year-old. What you call him, a beginner,
Novice.
I mean, where are they at now? You know what I'm saying?
Well, but see, that's a part of it, Ace, is they're marketing to, and I'm going to get so much heat for this episode this week, man, because I pissed off a lot of people with the politics. Now I'm going to piss off the MMA fans a little bit. I've talked about this before. And again, I've talked to people in the UFC involved in that industry, okay, from the business side of it, the promotional side of it. And they tell me straight up who they're marketing to. They're marketing to casual sports fans, dudes that have the little crocodile on their little collared shirt and their khaki shorts and shit. That's who they're marketing to. There's nothing wrong with that, but the majority of the UFC fans are casual sports fans. It's the dudes who don't even watch the NFL, but they watch the Super Bowl because they want to go to the Super Bowl party and post the Instagram post, right? They're marketing to that group, and they've succeeded. That group isn't well-versed on, they don't know boxing history. They don't know even MMA history a lot of times, right? They're casual sports fans. So it's easy for those guys to jump on Twitter and say boxing sucks, this sucks, that sucks. They really don't know what they're talking about. So they can bring in a guy like Jake Paul and bring in a guy like Tyron Woodley, and there's a certain element of the UFC/MMA fan base that's going to buy that fight because they really think Tyron Woodley had a chance. Even if Tyron Woodley won 6 rounds, what was this, 8-round fight? Yeah, I think it was an 8-round fight. Okay, if he won 6 rounds, it was going to be a draw. He wasn't going to win this fucking fight, right? He was brought in for marketing. That's why they brought him in. And some of the casual fans over from that side just can't see that. They also think that, oh, this guy's a great striker. Well, that don't mean shit in boxing. It don't mean shit. The best striker in boxing or the best striker in MMA isn't in the top 100 in boxing. That's just the reality of the situation. Okay. There are guys in boxing that wrestled in high school. That don't mean shit if they go over into MMA, right? So there's just a lot of the fans over there that are ignorant. They don't understand that they're kind of being manipulated. It's the same dudes that bought Mayweather McGregor. There was more McGregor fans than Floyd fans that bought that fight. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, man. No, I totally agree with you on that, man. Definitely, it's what they're targeting. Like you said, they did succeed in that, and it's funny because us boxing fans can be very critical and very unforgiving, but we're not naive. I'll tell you that, right? MMA fans though seem to be
some boxing fans
opposite,
are naive. Some boxing fans are very naive.
Yeah, you could say that, but I'll tell you what though, those aren't boxing fans.
Okay.
I'll tell you that the naive, they're not boxing fans, man. They're
they're the casual fan. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'll tell you what, when I asked myself one day, am I a boxing fan or am I a casual boxing fan, right? And obviously, I was just asking myself just because I had my doubts because of my knowledge of boxing, not like the sport itself, but just like the belts and all that. But then I realized I don't really care about all those belts or anything like that after a while, right? I went to Crawford and it was Pacquiao and Keith Thurman fight. And there's some people there, just a couple guys watching the fight, and they started talking about Floyd in some of his fights, and they started saying these ridiculous things, but they were acting like they're real boxing fans. You know what I'm saying? Like those kind that I'm a real boxing fan. I know a lot, and they thought they were talking to somebody that didn't was just on their level of boxing knowledge or the boxing game. But then I'm all like, okay, I'm a real boxing fan. I'm a hardcore boxing fan because obviously I'm listening to your show, and I watch all these boxing, but these guys had no idea what they were talking about, but yet they felt like they knew what they were talking about. You know what I'm saying, kind of thing. That's when I realized, all right, I'm a hardcore boxing fan, and this is what a casual fan really is, But
it's a lonely island.
With that being said,
it's a lonely place sometimes.
Yeah, exactly, bro. But one last thing, man. The whole, like I said, I watched a little highlights of the fight. I mean, just shitty little highlights or whatever. But boy, man, I would hate to, I respect, regardless of me, it's not that I don't like, MMA. I respect every single fighter that steps in the cage or ring, regardless. It takes balls and it takes, heart and courage,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it takes a little money. But overall, I respect both arts. But boxing is my thing, and there's a lot of things I don't like about MMA.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I would hate to see Jake Paul and this, these MMA Tyron, Woodley, whatever his name is, get hurt in the ring with a real fighter, because, in boxing, like they say, it's not a game. You can die. We've witnessed people die, in a fight. You don't see that in MMA, and these guys they suck, man. I mean, you saw the highlights. You cannot even put them in a fight with the real boxer, because they could get hurt, man. And it would be really sad to see that happen. Let's say, for example, to Jake Paul, when he steps up with a real fighter, like you said, not even top 100,
mm-hmm.
he could get hurt. From what I saw from him fighting, there's no way he can survive with a real fighter, a real boxer, and not get hurt, man. It's sad that people are, I guess, that he has yes people in his corner, and I give him props. He's doing what he's doing, and he I guess he's really into it, but he's gonna get hurt if somebody doesn't stop him from really getting in there with a real fighter, man.
I agree with you. And they're gonna milk this thing as long as they can, but at some point he's gonna get caught. I mean, hey, Woodley caught him with a shot that almost hurt him, so it's gonna happen, and that's what a real fighter. We'll find out if Jake Paul's a real fighter at that point, because if let's say he gets knocked the fuck out, right? Whether it's an MMA guy, a boxing guy, whatever. Does he come back after that? Or does he just call it quits and say, okay, I tried this, it's done now? If he comes back from that and keeps fighting, I will give him a lot of credit, because that's a real fighter. Because every damn fighter's been knocked down, been hurt. I don't give a damn who you are. Floyd's been dropped in sparring. He's been beat up. Everyone's seen the footage of Floyd getting beat up by Vito Spadafora in sparring because Vito was in shape and Floyd wasn't. So like, that happens to everybody. How you respond though? So we'll find out.
No, yeah, absolutely right, man. And you definitely give him props. Like I said, I know hate on the kid. He's doing what he's doing. I mean, I don't watch his whatever his fights or whatever. So but hey, props to him and what he's doing. And one last quick thing, man. You kind of reminded me of something. That guy, Mike Coppinger, he posted something. How the UFC built some new gyms in Mexico or something like that, and he tweeted out, if boxing will put out gyms like this, they would have more talent or blah blah blah, better stars. Like, I don't know, man. That one was like, are you kidding me, bro? Like, real fighters, legends, like, a la Pacquiao, Duran, you can go on more. They come from the streets. They come from the grit, from the dirt, man. That's what you like. You need to be in that environment to be like them, not these fancy gyms. These fancy gyms are going to create these Ryan Garcias, Devin Haney divas that never want to fight each other because they feel privileged, So I kind of thought, like, I don't know, Mike,
I thought that tweet by
Coppinger, you're wrong on this one, buddy.
He was. And I know exactly which tweet you're talking about. There was some facility in Mexico City that I think the UFC built. And Coppinger tweeted that and said, this is what boxing needs to do, et cetera, et cetera. And I wanted to kind of blast him, but I didn't do it. I just said, I'm going to leave this one alone. But I completely agree with you. The thing that Cop doesn't realize, because he's not a real boxing guy. Cop does a great job doing what he does, but he's not a real boxing guy,
right?
And he's never going to be. He didn't grow up in that culture. He doesn't understand it. Boxing is an inner city sport. It is a poor sport. It's an immigrant sport. And the kids that do MMA, look, I live in Atlanta now, and I live in the suburbs. I live north of Atlanta, okay? For the first time in my life, I live in the suburb. I live in the city my whole life. And I see here in the suburbs where I live, there's MMA gyms. There's UFC gyms. When I go train for boxing, I got to drive a few miles south to the border where Atlanta is. That's where my gym is. I got to go to Atlanta. There's no boxing gyms out in the suburbs. That's where the UFC gyms are. And that's there's a lot of different reasons for that. To get into that, we could do an hour-long debate, but that's something that Cop doesn't maybe understand or didn't want to hit in his tweet. That big facility, that big UFC facility, that's not for young kids. That's not for prospects. That's for the pros that want to go down and have a complex to train at. Those kind of gyms exist in boxing. Robert Garcia's gym in Oxnard, places like that. Those are, there's facilities where like pros go, and there's like a dozen pros that will train together. So it's kind of comparing apples and oranges, man. He just doesn't understand that.
Yeah, exactly, man. So yeah, I think you're right on that one, man. But anyways, bro, I just wanted to call in, keep up the good work, bro, and for the record, I'm no MMA hater. Like I said, I respect all forms of combat, at the end of the day. But, this boxing is way more, it's just, it's more pleasing, it's more like real life. And I think that's what, that these MMA fans don't, they don't want to, really, see that aspect of boxing because they just want to be in their own. If I wanted to watch an MMA fight, I'd just go to a high school. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the way I see it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I respect it. I'll watch a fight, with a friend or whatever. I'm not opposed to watching it. I'm not going to go out of my way like I do with boxing. But like I said, if I want to watch a fight, I go to a high school and watch them. It's the same thing as an MMA fight, minus they wrestle better, but it is what it is. But anyways, bro, good show, man. Do your thing, and we'll talk another day, buddy.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too.
There he goes, guys. Ace from Ventura. And by the way, opinions expressed by Ace are not necessarily shared or promoted by Michael Montero. Because look, I there is plenty of room for both sports. And I will say, there's a kickboxer a professional kickboxer at the gym I'm training at right now. And I've been in the ring just doing drills with him. And he's a cardio freak and he is strong as fuck. I got nothing but respect for this dude. And I've seen some of the kickboxers train with him. He'll bring in guys from other gyms and they'll work together sometimes. My gym is boxing. It's a boxing gym. 90% of the people there are boxing, but there's a few kickboxers and stuff that come in. No wrestlers or anything. But I mean, I just nothing but respect for those guys. And having been in the ring and feeling like there's one Muay Thai guy and grappling with him on the inside. And when we tied up, his hands grappling skills were fucking outstanding. And I told him that. And what was cool is we talked a little bit and he showed me certain things, certain hand movements and stuff, hand placement on the inside that he uses. And what he was saying to me is, fuck, dude, your feet are awesome. The way you know, your angles and the way you spin me and turn me is great. So we shared like, you know, a little bit of like our skill set. He's way, way more advanced than me, but there was just some boxing stuff I could help him with. And he could help me with some grappling stuff. So there's things that we can learn from each other. And I do think you're going to see more fighters come out with a blended fight background where you see some boxers like I think I want to say Sean Porter wrestled. I want to say Terrence Crawford wrestled. And Amanda Serrano, who I talked about earlier, she's done several different disciplines, not just boxing. I think you're going to see more of that now. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. The one thing that drives me a little crazy is some of the UFC fans shitting on boxing all the time when they don't know what they're talking about. But I say all that and I have to follow it with this. There are a lot of ignorant, stupid boxing fans that I have to deal with every day. I have to deal with their stupidity, tweeting and saying all kinds of crazy shit too. So it goes both ways. It truly, truly does. All right. All right. Back to the phones we go. And but I saw one of you guys. I'm sorry, I forget your name in the chat because there was several comments up. You made a point that at least Tyron Woodley tried. Ben Askren didn't even try, and that's a great point. Ben Askren completely shit the bed against Jake Paul. Tyron Woodley put up a fight, and he landed some hard shots, and he backed Jake Paul up. So give Woodley some respect and give him some credit. He did this as a boxing novice himself and a 39-year-old boxing novice. So Woodley deserves credit that Ben Askren just dissed the shit out of that guy if you want, because he didn't even try. He showed up looking fat. And one of you guys in the chat mentioned he had hip surgery. Okay, that's fine. But that dude just didn't even put up a fight. Nacho in the chat says, Mike, disappointed that Charles Conwell wasn't on the card. Yeah, that was a massive failure. Massive failure by the promotion. Charles Conwell needed to be on that pay-per-view. It's ridiculous he wasn't. You could have fit that in, man. You could have fit that in because people need to see Charles Conwell fight. All right. I think this is Rich here on the phone. 847, you're on the show. What's going on?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
What's up, man?
Oh, good, man. How you doing? No, I just a note on your comment there. Yeah, the reason why Paul knocked out Ben Askren because Ben Askren has no striking skills at all. Just kind of going back to that real quick, and that guy's a 170-pound fighter too. So once they moved him up to a 190 cruiserweight, so he's way out of his weight class to begin with no striking skills. So, but no, I just wanted to comment on the Paul Woodley card. I did see the card. Overall, the card was pretty decent, I like to say. Of course, it was not, in my opinion, pay-per-view worthy, which I think a lot of people will agree to that. But I was more intrigued with the undercard more than the actual main event. And to me, I thought the guy that kind of stole the show to me was Montana Love. It was a pretty exciting fight between him and Barachek.
Yeah.
And I thought he performed well. And Barachek, like I said, it just seemed like anytime he was getting tagged, he was getting hurt pretty quick. And kind of like what you're saying, I think the wars have, all the battles have caught up to him. So I think he needs to, like you said, kind of look more into retirement at this point, because I think he's taking too much damage and a lot of hits to the head. And Charles Campbell, I agree. That should have been part of the pay-per-view card. And I think, from my understanding, that was the only fight that was like non-televised. So I mean, I don't understand why they didn't throw that in the card. Because they definitely had the time, considering all the talking they did throughout the telecast. Going back to those Barstool Sports guys talking about the betting. You know what I mean? There was actually the time to show that fight.
Absolutely.
Based on
he's a talent, man.
So
He's going to be fighting for a title within the
No.
next year, and they really should have put him on that card.
Yeah.
It just made no sense not to.
Yeah, I would have preferred that to see than the Tommy Fury fight and the other
Hell
MMA
yeah.
guy. I thought that was
Hell yeah.
I thought that fight was not good at all, and not too impressed with Tommy Fury. It was kind of my first time seeing him. I really thought he should have put that guy out, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
he didn't. So I wasn't too impressed with him at all. Dubois looked good. He looked spectacular with the stoppage. And Amanda Serrano did good. I don't know if you saw the trainer at the end. He was kind of like mouthing off to the other corner. I don't know if you caught any of that footage or anything like that, but say some nasty stuff. I don't know what the cause of that. There was no like bad blood, but he was actually mouthing to the other corner, saying like, fight, do it Mexican style, talking a lot of shit. So so he got a bad rep on the social media as well, and I was kind of figure what was up with that. So I'm sure a lot of people caught that, and people did criticize that trainer. I think that the brother-in-law. I think that brother's Amanda Serrano. He was kind of mouthing off, so I'm not sure what his deal was. But going to the main event. First of all, yeah, you know what? It is a circus. I think for me, Mike, the only problem I have is that, of course, I don't mind these type of YouTube fights or crossover fights. I mean, we've had these type of fights or celebrity boxing throughout the years.
Yeah.
Doesn't really bother me. But of course, to make it as a headliner, like main event fight, like, yeah, of course, I would prefer to see like a big card, a big solid card, but maybe they could be like the opening bout, and then I'm okay with it. But like, make it as a headlining. But I see the point. It's business, and they sell. And what's going to be very disappointing is, guaranteed, this pay-per-view is going to sell more than the Pacquiao-Ugas pay-per-view.
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
5 times
I
more.
saw the report was right, and the people that bought the fighter, that bought it was the casuals, any Paul fans, and of course the MMA community. Probably most of those fans bought that card too, just in hopes of Tyron Woodley, knocking out Jake Paul.
Right.
That was really it. I saw the card because I didn't order the fight. I didn't stream it either. But I have my uncle who got me into boxing is a hardcore fanatic. Mongo's one of those guys that orders like any pay-per-view. All right.
Okay.
So he's got time in his hands, he's got extra cash in his hand, right? So he orders any pay-per-view. He'll order that, he'll order the, Tank Davis, Mauro Barrios. He's just one of those guys that doesn't care and just orders because he has the extra time on his hands. So I tend to, go by his place and watch the fight. So that's how but it was not something I would buy personally. So
I hear you, man. I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think I haven't bought a pay-per-view since 2013. I mean, I don't think a lot of these pay-per-views are just kind of worthy anymore. Even if they get a solid pay-per-view, the undercard seems to be weak for the most part. It's not like the early days of the, Dom King pay-per-view days, right, where he put like Chavez as the headliner, and then he'll put like
he'd stack cards, dude.
Each other.
Those cards were stacked back in the day. Yeah.
Right. They were like $50-$40 at that time, but they were like 4 solid championship fights. You would get Chavez, Trinidad, Julian Jackson, Terry Norris, like all on the same card, and then Ricardo, Benito Lopez, everybody was on those cards, So, I mean, that was like actually worth, the pay-per-view money. So, and then, back to Paul and Willie, Mike. I think the MMA fans is kind of hating. They like you mentioned, and you already added your points that his striking skills are just not there. And it's totally different. It's they don't have that success, coming over to boxing.
Yeah.
It's
a different
that's
sport.
Just the way it is, and it'll be vice versa. It's a different sport. It'd be the same thing if a boxer, which is kind of like James Toney did it. When he fought Randy Couture, he got to take it to the ground, and that was it. He was done with. But that's because he was taken to the ground. He didn't know how to wrestle.
Right.
Even though it's still both guys are over the hill at that point, anyways. But that's just what it is. But Tyron Woodley did pretty good for having his first pro boxing fight. The fight itself, I scored the fight for Paul, but to me, it really was an uneventful fight. It wasn't really a good fight, and it was kind of expected, in my opinion. Woodley, I think he could have had more moments if he kind of let his hands go, but he didn't. So,
yeah.
But there's, like you said, there's a reason why they pick these guys.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. It's the thing,
right?
And
past his prime, Woodley's past his prime.
Rich, here's the thing, man. In the boxing media, there's kind of two worlds. You can be that guy that kind of goes along with the story and goes along with the narrative, and maybe you can be a part of the Jake Paul circus, and maybe you'll get picked up to cover some of his fights, or you can work some of the broadcasts. If you kind of go along with oh man, this is a really, really even matchup, and Tyron Woodley, MMA legend, and he was a really, really good striker in the UFC, and you talk like that, and you build it up, or you could be one of the guys that just tells the truth about what the fuck this is. I don't know any other way. I can't play the role. But everyone's asking me how should I bet this fight? How should I bet this fight? I'm like, Jake Paul's going to win. That's why Tyron Woodley's there. Jake Paul's going to win. That's it. And I didn't think Jake Paul could knock out Woodley, so it's probably going the distance. But it doesn't surprise me. The fact that one judge scored it for Woodley, so it seemed closer than it was. And now there's people talking about a rematch. I saw that Paul Woodley 2 hashtag trended on Twitter briefly. I'm like, what? It's crazy how gullible people are, dude.
No, I know. Yeah. And there were some people I think I saw some videos, Push a Shield, even Boo Mancini, they all felt that Woodley won the fight. I saw some interviews or footage on it just recently. But I think, Boom Boom was very, back in the day, a very aggressive fighter. So he was kind of going based on that. Tyron Woodley was, was even more aggressive, and he landed more meaningful punches, so he should have won the fight. He called it like it was horse shit or something like that.
Yeah.
In some interview I saw with Ray.
That's crazy.
But no, there's a reason for it. If people would have known that, Tyron Woodley lost his last 4 fights, and he hasn't got a knockout with striking. I think back in 2016 when he knocked out Robbie Lawler, from my understanding. I thought some of the MMA, I'm kind of more in the casual stance, but I've been surprised because I've actually known more MMA and some other people that claim that they're MMA fans. It's kind of surprising, actually. That kind of goes back to the other point earlier or the other guy on the phone said that a lot of the guys are kind of just casuals when it comes to MMA, and that's true. And that is true because I just a quick point on that. I've seen some events with some pretty good solid fights in the UFC, but if they're not Conor McGregor or Brock Lesnar or Ronda Rousey, those type of names, there's hardly any crowds. But when those type of fighters fight, there's huge crowds.
Yeah.
Everybody comes out, And I'm thinking this is a pretty good fight between two top guys in MMA, but yet nobody's coming out for it. You know what I mean? But with Conor McGregor, which he's pretty much he's really not that good anyways to begin with, everybody comes out thinking he's going to do something or win a big match again. So.
Yeah, he sells. He sells, man. Look, Mike Tyson could fight a mailman, and there are people out there who will buy it. Even at 55 years old, he could just smoke a joint and fight the mailman. People would buy that shit. There's just some names are just going to sell. You know what I mean? But I'm going to, you got anything else for me, man? Or I got to get going because we're
real quick. No,
okay.
I go, man. Real quick. I just want to let you know that I did talk to you last weekend was, I attended the Pacquiao Ugas card, and
right.
It was a phenomenal card. It was a great card, man. It was a good turnout. I think it was a little over 17,000 people had turned out. The Filipinos are definitely in the house, and just my quick take on that fight. For me, I think Manny Pacquiao should retire from boxing. I think for 42 years old, he was still, he performed so well against Ugas, but I don't see anything better coming from him at this point. I think he should just kind of walk away. He's done so much for the sport, and I think he should just kind of walk away with that. He looked good still, but he came out with the loss.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my opinion. And then on that card, because I attended that whole entire card, there was 3 fights on there, televised on Fox, but yeah, they had no fans attend those fights on that undercard. It was kind of weird. Because I was there for the press, and it was like the prospect, like Frank Martin, and then the other card was Puerto Rican kid from Pennsylvania, Steven Torres. Like, it was kind of weird not letting the fans come in for those fights. They still started those fights at like 1:00 in the afternoon Vegas time. They didn't open the doors till like 4:00 that day. It's kind of odd.
That's weird.
So,
huh.
Kind of bad for the fans, because they could have showed those guys, or kind of see these guys coming up. So I'm not sure what PBC was doing there.
It might have been the Nevada rules. It might have been related to COVID protocol, something like that. Who knows?
It might have been. It might have been, Mike. But listen, I want to keep you up, Mike, so I'll let you go, man. It's nice talking to you, man. Yeah,
man. Have a good one, Rich.
Okay, you too. All right. Okay.
All right. Julio Arroyo in the chat ask, how is the Atlanta club scene growing? Do you see it becoming more and more of a fight destination? It has been growing. Now, what I don't know is there have been more cards post-COVID, and I know we're still dealing with COVID. When I say post-COVID, I mean post-outbreak, because I know one of you will jump on, it's still here. I know, I get it. I meant post-COVID outbreak. There have been more fight cards coming here, both club shows and big shows, right? We've seen Tank just came recently, and Jamel Herring's coming in October. And I think you're going to see that more. What I don't know is if it's strictly related to COVID, because it's so hard now to put on fights in California, even in Vegas, it's more difficult, New York, or is it going to continue to grow here? Because the demographics for boxing in Atlanta are spot on. There's money in this city. It's a sports market. It's a big entertainment market now. It's a big entertainment hub. So I think you're going to see more, man. I'm doing as much as I can to try to get more here. And I love that Jamel Herring's coming to town soon. That's freaking awesome, man. Feeling Dangerous 113 with another super chat. Thank you. He says, what do you think is next for Montana Love at 140? That is a good question, my man. Honestly, I see one of you guys in the chat says Love versus Raleigh at 140 would be a good fight. Yeah, that'd be a good fight. I'd favor Love, but I think that'd be a fun fight. The lead up would be fun, the promotion. But I think, Montana Love, now he's got that win over a guy. Now, is Baranchek shop worn? Yes, but he's still got a name. Former title holder. He was in the tournament a couple of years ago, had a fight of the year last year. He came up short, but he was in a fight of the year type of fight with Zepeda last year. So that name now is on Montana Love's resume, and the way he beat him, dude, he's going to be in line for a title shot soon. I mean, Josh Taylor is going to move up to 147. If not this year, then definitely next year. And Top Rank's going to want to match him against, that's if I was going to say against Terrence Crawford, if Terrence Crawford stays with Top Rank, which he probably won't. So let me back that up. I just think Josh Taylor is going to want to move up to 47 and go for some of the fights there, unless maybe Teofimo Lopez moves up to 140 and you can get Teofimo Lopez versus Josh Taylor. But if and when Josh Taylor does move up, the titles are going to be broken up. And I think that Montana Love is going to be in line to go for a vacant title at some point over the next 18 months. It's even possible he could work his way into a mandatory situation. But he's definitely a player now at 140 with that W, man. That was a good, impressive step-up win for him, regardless of the condition Baranchek is in. he really did his job, man. Montana Love did what he was supposed to do in that fight. All right, now I promised you guys we'd have a fight preview. So let me get to this real quick, and then we'll see if there's any more phone calls. But Wednesday, September 1 in Japan, Kazuto Ioka, remember him? Hasn't fought so far this year. Going up against Francisco Rodriguez Jr., third defense of his WBO junior. I'm sorry, I was going to super flyweight, junior bantamweight, whichever you prefer, title. Ioka, first bout of 2021, as I mentioned, his last fight was against Kosei Tanaka on December 31st. So it's good to see him get back in the ring. Rodriguez is a fighter out of Mexico, experienced guy. He's fought Chocolatito in 2013. He fought Dani Nietes in 2015. He lost both those fights. He's a road warrior. He fought Chocolatito in Nicaragua. He fought Nietes in the Philippines. And then this fight against Ioka will be in Japan. So Rodriguez is not afraid to travel. He's experienced, should have just enough to give Ioka a good fight. But of course, I like Ioka to win. Saturday, September 4th at the Headingley Rugby League Stadium in Leeds, England. Matchroom Boxing on DAZN. The rematch between Mauricio Lara and Josh Warrington. Of course, their first fight was in February. Warrington won the first bout, TKO 9, dropped Warrington twice in that fight. I'm excited for this one. This is a good matchup, man. I want to see, can Warrington show us he is world class and make adjustments and beat Lara in this rematch? Or is Lara going to prove to us that he is world class by not only defeating Warrington again, but doing it in more decisive fashion this time around? Interesting fight with a lot of repercussions in the division, right? Depending on how this fight shakes out, it's going to change. It's going to affect the way matchmaking is done in the division over the next year. So I want to check that one out. Katie Taylor versus Jennifer Hahn. Jennifer Hahn, a fighter out of Texas. She has 3 losses, but all of them were split decisions, majority decisions. They were close fights, okay? So she's never been decisively defeated. And so this is a good quality fight for Taylor's undisputed lightweight championship. You guys know, I think Katie Taylor is the #1 pound-for-pound female boxer in the world. And if she truly is that, she should be the first woman to decisively, clearly, unanimously defeat Jennifer Hahn and show that level. And I think she will in this fight. And then Conor Benn, 18-0, 24 years old, just fought in April, TKO 1 win over Sammy Vargas. Really impressive win for Ben. Going up against rugged, grizzled veteran Adrian Granados, 32 years old, 8 years older, but he's been in some wars, man. So he's even more than 8 years older in terms of boxing years, boxing wear and tear, right? Granados had a draw on the Ruiz Areola undercard in May. This is a 12-round welterweight fight. So let's see, can Conor Benn show us something again? He looked real good against Sammy Vargas, but the thing with Granados is he goes rounds. He goes rounds, and he's a tough dude. So let's see what Conor Benn has for him. Nice little triple header there from Matchroom. I mean, none of those fights are blockbusters or anything, but that's a solid triple header that you're going to get on DAZN. Not pay-per-view worthy, but it's not a pay-per-view. So there you go. All right. So that's it for the preview. Let's jump back to the phone. We're going to take one more call here, guys, because we are right at an hour and a half. So I think we got Nacho on the line. We'll let Nacho do his thing, and then we'll wrap it up. All right. All right, Nacho, what's going on, my man?
Hey, nothing much, Mike. Basically, just wanted to touch on the card really quick. I agree with you. Like the fight between Jake Paul and Woodley, they tried any and everything to sell it. I don't think you're wrong as far as like what they tried to do as far as like, trying to sell it to the public. It was like a total WWE type, script that they followed to try to sell it. And, if that's the angle they're going to go for, it is what it is. But most fans should be aware that that's what you're getting into when you buy a Jake Paul fight.
Exactly.
And if you're not going to, know that going in, then that's on you. As far as the undercard, like I told you, like I kind of tweeted to you earlier, I think Baranchuk is done. I really hope that his team, if they care about the guy, I really think they talk to him and convince him to try to, do something else. Because if a guy like Montana Love, who's a good fighter, not great, good, and he's not a heavy-handed guy, if he's wobbling you 4 times and then drops you a 5th time with a uppercut that you basically didn't see coming, I think it's legitimately time that you start looking at doing something else. You were saying something about, well, maybe it was, the guy that he fought and the style. Yeah, that could have played a part into it. If you match him up against a guy who's going to stand right in front of him and go to war with him, yeah, Baranchuk could still be effective. But I think at this point, the guy is so he's been hurt and he's been beat up pretty significantly, especially after his fight by Zepeda, that I just think it's just he's done. Like you can see his resistance is gone. He doesn't take a shot really well. It's just time. I hope they convince him not to get back in the ring, because yesterday was a evidence that he's done and he shouldn't be back in there. Like you said, it's a good win for Love, but I think it's more of he caught Baranchuk at the right time more than he legitimately beat a guy at the top of his game. But we'll see what happens with Love. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight against Rolly. If Rolly ain't got nothing going on at 35, I mean, that would be a decent matchup for sure. And then the other fight with I was a little disappointed. I thought Kuzmano was going to put up a better fight.
Me too.
But man, Dubois just steamrolled him. Yeah, Dubois just steamrolled him and took him out of there. And I mean, that's impressive in itself. I didn't think he was going to steamroll him like that, but you got to give Dubois credit. He went in there and he took him out, and it's, I think slowly but surely he's building his confidence back up again. And sooner rather than later, he's going to be back in the mix, I think, to kind of be talked about as a guy who should be given a title shot at some point, And then the other thing, I was disappointed they didn't put Charles Conwell on the card. I would have liked to have seen him, but I guess they were trying to sell the Amanda Serrano fight, which it was kind of ho-hum. The girl that she fought wasn't exactly on her level, but yeah, she still ended up going the distance with her, which, I mean, I give the girl credit. Mercado, she's tough and she's got some skill and she's experienced, but the problem with women's boxing is just there is no depth at all in that sport. And so that's why you have these girls struggling to find any legitimate opponents, because there's just no quality opposition in that sport right now. And I still think it's going to be a few years before it gets to the point where.
Oh, Nacho, you still there? Damn, we lost Nacho. Bro, I don't know. You put me on mute or something. You muted us, bro. I'm going to give you a couple more seconds.
Hello?
Oh, there he is. All right. He beat the count. All right. Nacho's back. All right. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. Hello. Oh, I was just going to finish up with Serrano.
Go ahead.
Serrano's had a great career and everything, Mike, but she's had a great career and everything, Mike. But I mean, I just think she's kind of in a time where there's just no real opposition that she can cash in with other than Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor might be the biggest name out there, but I mean, they offered her the fight once and she apparently said no. So, yeah. I mean, at this point, what do you do?
Well, they could keep doing what she's doing now, fighting that level of opposition. And if she does that, then, she can make a little bit of money here and there, and she can get her title defenses and all that. But can you hear me, Nacho?
Yeah.
You know what? People are saying they can't hear us on the chat.
Oh.
That's really weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
What the hell happened?
Yeah, Mike. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm with you. She needs to fight. She needs to fight Katie Taylor. But maybe they're just trying to maximize the dollars, so they could go for one big payday, and that's that. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, because at this point, Toronto's just gone up and down divisions, but there's nobody there for her to make money against Katie Taylor. So
Yeah.
at this point, I mean, like you said, maybe they're just trying to max it out as much as they can so she can get a huge payday and maybe walk away at that point.
Yeah, I guess that's the strategy. So do a couple more of these fights against, lesser opposition, make a little bit of money. She's not making a lot of money, man. She made pretty decent money on this pay-per-view compared to some of her recent paydays. But the big money fight for her is Katie Taylor. So if they want to try to build that up and get the most money they can, I'm cool with that. But you got about another year maybe to build that up. And then Katie Taylor is going to move on and that fight's going to be dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
for sure. All right, Mike, that's my call.
All right, Nacho, thanks a lot, man. Have a good one.
All right, yeah, no problem. You too.
All right, guys. So it sounds like some of you said that the video cut out for a minute. That's probably the storm, man. It's storming outside here, so it might have just been messing with the signal. So I hope you guys can hear me or see me on the video, and I'm not just talking to nobody. Either way. Great show, great calls. A little bit of controversy, but we'll be okay. No show this Friday, no show Monday. We'll be back next Friday, but I will post something on my channel later this week, okay? So look for